Hello everyone. Today's video is very interesting. It is based on sprint planning using Azure DevOps Board. So watch till the end if you want to get the full uh, understanding of this process. So I'm going to create a project from scratch. Okay, go through it and create a project backlog, create stories, epics, features, all these things, and then plan a sprint like you do in a regular project. Yeah. I will follow the same process. Now, if you have not, if you're new to this entire thing, I will suggest you to look at my other video. Okay, go through it. It is so you'll understand the concepts of Azure DevOps Board and then epics, stories, features. Okay, so these concepts I have explained in my other video. I have provided the link below in the description, so you can go through it first. Now, before we jump into the details of it, I want to tell you that I'll give you some fundamentals, okay, about sprint. So basically, sprints can be 2 weeks or 3 weeks or sometimes even 4 weeks. Okay, so it depends on the size of the project. Of the overall project and how often you want to do releases and what type of releases you want to do. Sometimes we want to quickly drop things into a higher environment. So coming to the environments, ideally you should have a dev environment, a SIT environment, a UAT environment, and a production environment. These are the four environments you should definitely have. You can have more environments. People have multiple copies of a SIT environment. People have multiple copies of UAT environment. Then they also have a hotfix environment. Okay, so it can go on. I mean, you can have a lot of environments, but these are the basic things, basic environments which you need to run a project successfully and with less issues. Okay, so the more separation you have, the better it is. The better is to manage the delivery of the project. So development environment is where you develop things. Okay, so your developers will frequently use this environment. They will obviously do their development in the local machine. Yeah, now everyone is using VMs. So when I'm saying local, so it is their local virtual machine. Okay, so they do development there. Then they publish the things in the dev environment. The developers also do a dev testing, so they'll use that environment to do a dev testing. Okay, then they, once the dev testing is complete, they promote the code or publish it to the higher environment, which is the SIT environment, system integration testing. Okay, so that environment, or sometimes you call it just like testing environment. Okay, the test environment usually will have all the you know, so in dev environment usually you will have mocks, but in an actual system integration test environment you will have actual connections to the end systems like the third parties, and if you're using third party APIs or third party databases, you know, you will have the actual connectivity there. So then the more integration testing can happen in that environment, so you do that integration testing there. Okay, and then once that is successful, you then move it to the higher environment, which is the UAT environment, user acceptance testing. So in the UAT environment, the actual business users, they will do the test. So sometimes the users could be external. So it means you cannot ask external users to do the testing. So what you should do is that you will have a business team or a product team, right? So that product team will do the testing there. A product team will be responsible to deliver this product to the end users, right? So that product team has a better understanding of the business process flows and those things. So from a user point of view, they will do some testing. So that is the UAT environment. And once you are happy with the UAT, you then move the code to production. Okay, so that is called as go live, right? So you do a deployment, and then the product is live. And once the product enters the live, once the product is deployed or the product is live, then you do a warranty support. So that is your responsibility to do a support, which is also called as a warranty period. Like when you buy a physical product, a washing machine or something, you will get a warranty, right? So similarly, when you publish a product, make it live, available to business users or the end customers, so you provide a warranty. Okay, so it depends on your agreement with the business. It may be 2 weeks, it may be 3 weeks, it may be 1 month. Okay, so you provide warranty. Any support activity comes during that phase, the developers who have actually created the product should support that. Okay, so that is a typical phase. Okay, that is how it happens. And after warranty, it goes to support, where then there should be another support team in the organization. That support team should be responsible for any hot fixes or fixes. Okay, any issues, they should handle it. The dev team should do a knowledge transition to the support team, and support team should then be responsible for all the support work that will any issues, anything. Okay, they should then fix it and then redeploy it to production. Then that enters a separate phase. Okay, so until you go live and until your warranty is over, okay, you should follow this sprint development. Okay, which is the one of the agile development process. Okay, where you frequently provide updates to the business or end users. Okay, you frequently provide updates, you get early feedback, you work on those feedbacks, and then again provide updates. So it is a continuous cycle which continues like this until the entire product is delivered. Okay, so it will have multiple phases. Agile development process has multiple phases. It is not just one big bang go live. No, that is not the agile way of doing it. Agile process will have multiple go lives. Okay, or multiple deployments to UAT. Now some companies, organizations do this, like they so they develop a product, they immediately move to higher environments, and then they go live. Okay, and then they again, as part of every sprint, there will be a live. Okay, that also happens in some cases. But another way is to do the development and publish it to UAT. Okay, where it is not live, but the actual users or the users who are very close to the end users, they will get an opportunity to test it, provide you feedback. You again do the development, move to testing, again move to UAT, again get a feedback, again go to dev. So you continue this cycle between dev and UAT. Okay, dev, SIT, UAT. Continue this cycle. Once you have a product which is kind of robust and good, you are happy, satisfied, then move it to production. Okay, so that is another way. So it depends on what your organization is looking into, but these are the first option is like very agile. Second option is more robust. Okay, so that's how you do it. So now let's jump into the practical exercises. So first, like this is my Azure board. Okay, so it is free. You can sign up to this Azure board. You can create it, and then once you are here, okay, let's say you want to create a solution. Okay, so there is a project, right? So for example, let's say the project is called as expense management system. Okay, so what you do is go here, create on new project, and name it. Okay, expense management system. Okay, now I have already created this project. Before doing this tutorial, I was just checking a few things. So I just created this project. That's why it is saying it already exists. If I say like this, okay, so you can create in this name, and then provide a description. Visibility, private or public, depends on what you want. People who have access to this project, only they can view it. Public means anyone can view this project. Okay, so which is like you will not want that, right? So better to make it private. And then in the advanced, you will have this version control. So Git is the favorite version controlling system, so use this. And then use the Agile process. So there are different processes defined within Azure DevOps board, so you can go through the process, but again Agile is the default one, so go for that. Okay, Agile, and then click on create. So since I have already created it, so I will just go here. So once you create it, it will come up like this. Okay, there is no nothing complex there. It is just a simple process to create a project. So once you have created the project, you will see like this. Yeah, you'll see a screen like this. When you click on that, welcome to the project, and all these things. Now what you should do is you should go to the backlogs. Okay, so backlog is the place where you put all your user stories. Okay, or which is basically the requirements. Yeah, requirements in the form of user stories you put in the backlogs, and then you prioritize those, and then you move those to the sprints. Okay. So now our backlog will be empty, obviously, because nothing is there. So what we will do is we will add few things. Okay, so better, it is always good to follow a process when you do this kind of things. So one way is you can directly add stories. Okay, nobody is stopping you from doing that. But instead of directly adding stories, you should create groups. Okay, groups are called as features. Okay, again, so a group of stories can be, so one feature will be delivered when you deliver a number of stories as part of that feature. Okay, again, above feature is the epic. Okay, so epic is the top level view of your project, right? A very top level view of the project is a epic. So a project can have multiple epics within it. Then within the epic, you can have multiple features. Within a feature, you can have multiple stories. And then within a story, you can have multiple tasks. So that is the hierarchy which is followed. So here you can see stories selected, and then you have features. But actually, you can also see epics if you do this. You go to settings, select epics here. Okay. Save and close. And now screen will refresh. And in the drop down, you will see epics feature stories. So let's first create some epics. So now if I say new work item, by default epic is coming because I have selected epic here. I have already written some epics. So what I will do is I will just add these things. So epics at the top. One more epic will be admin and reporting. So this is expense management systems. Okay, expense management system. So this is admin and reporting epic, user analytics epic, and then let's say expense tracker epic. Okay, so these are my 4 epics, which is basically a very high level view of your project. So these 3 define my project, okay, at a high level. Now within epic, we need to create features. So what we will do is select features here and then go and copy some features. So expense reporting is one of my feature, which will come under the epic admin and reporting, right? So here let's add new and then add this feature. Okay, at the top. Similarly, I can add a feature called as manage users. So at the top, so I have added 2 features now. Okay, now again, if you want some more details about it, go through my other video, which is there in the description. Okay, now 2 features has been added, but these features are not yet tagged to a epic. Okay, I want these features to be part of admin and reporting epic. So what I will do is go to the feature. Okay, and here add a link. Okay, and no, I think add a link here. Here the link type is parent, which is correct, and then admin and reporting. I selected that, click on OK because I want this feature to be part of admin and reporting. So save and close. Similarly, go to expense reporting, add a link here. Okay, so when you click this text box here, you will get this epics. So add that and then save and close. Now these features has been added to the epics which I just showed you. Yeah. So under these features, again, we need to create some stories. Okay, so let's one way is actually add a link, new item. Okay, so a child, and here we will say, so this is another way of doing it. So I can do like this. So child, select user story. Okay, and then a title, give a story name, and then okay, and the stories will be created. So that is one way, quick way of doing it. Another way is again create the stories, and then after creating the stories, you link it. Okay, in the same way which I showed you with how the same process you need to follow, the way I did for features and epics. Okay, the same for stories and features. So here user story. So let's copy this user story. Title. Now the story is written in this way, right? So as an user, I want to see a list of expenses in the past 12 months so that I can understand the nature of my expenses. This is the ideal format of creating a story or writing a story title. So first you need to write what you want to do or what you are expecting, okay, and then what is the benefit of it, okay, why you want that, okay. So what and why. So these are the two parts of a story title, and then click OK. So here you can see the story is coming up here. Now what you can do is you can add more description of the story. You can add acceptance criteria. All the discussions under that story will happen here. Description where you write details. Acceptance criteria is basically what it needs for this story to complete, okay, which means business will tell that, okay, these are my parameters, okay. Parameter 1, I should see a new screen. Parameter 2, the screen should have this 10 text boxes. Parameter 3, there should be a button, okay. So, and when you submit it, I should see that in another, I should get a thank you message. For example, I should see another screen where a thank you message is shown. So that is an example of acceptance criteria. So business need to, the more detailed it is, the more better it is for you to deliver. So always pressurize the business to add detailed acceptance criteria, okay. What usually business people do is they just add some high level things and then close it, and then they say that, okay, no, you have missed this or you have missed that, okay. So that's the problem. So always put pressure to add detailed acceptance criteria, and as part of that, if there is any documentation, attach those documentation here, attachments, okay. So you have all the things to deliver the project, to deliver the story. Now save and close. So one is done. Let's go and add another one. Add link, new item, again child, user story. Let's copy another user story here. Title. Similarly, this user story, what it tells is, as an user, I want to see a forecast of my expenses so that I can better manage my money in future. Okay, so this is another user story. Let's click on OK, and again you add description, acceptance criteria, all these things, attachments, right? And it is under this feature. So save and close. So for this video purpose, I think these two are enough. Okay, so you have this these things here. If you go to Epics, you will have a better view, a top level view, right? So Epics, within Epic, you have feature. Within a feature, you have stories. Okay, so you can keep on adding all these things. That is how you organize a backlog. Okay, it is very easy then to run queries on this or to run reports on this. Yeah. So once you have this, so that is a recommended approach. So once you have this kind of things, next is, now you are doing a sprint planning, right? So your sprint should typically start on a Monday and end on a Friday. So if you're starting a sprint on Monday, so you do a sprint planning on Thursday or Friday, okay, so that your current sprint is almost towards the end. So developers are free. Testers will have some work, but developers will be almost kind of free and in a support mode, and you then can, without affecting the other sprint, you can do a planning. Otherwise, if you do it on a Monday, then obviously that day is gone and then your sprint becomes shorter. So you do a planning before the actual start date of a sprint. Now here, so now you have everything in product backlog. So this is the responsibility of product manager or a business analyst. This is not a Scrum Master responsibility. Okay, Scrum Master is to remove blockers, manage the deliveries. Okay, the product owner is responsible and should ensure that everything here is up to date and prioritized. Okay, you also need to give priority. Now that is one thing which you can do using this here. Okay, so priority 1 or priority 2, priority 3, like this, so that the stories are so that you know when you are planning, you know which story should be part of this sprint or a story should be moved to the next sprint. Okay, so that you should know based on the priorities. Another way of doing it is what you can do is you can also like move the stories up and down. Okay, let's say I want this to be delivered first, so I now moved it. Okay, you can see now this story forecast is coming up now and this went down. So you follow this order of priority. That is also another thing. Instead of going to each story and updating the priority there, you just tell the team that as a product manager, you tell the team that this is the priority, and then Scrum Master ensures that is how it is delivered. That is another way of doing it. Right, now let's go to sprint. So sprints. Okay, now here you can see there is one more backlog here. Now this is the sprint backlog. Okay, this is, don't confuse it with the product backlog. Now product backlog is this one, which will contain, which is the master, right? It contains all the stories, all the features, all the epics are in this product backlog. This is the sprint backlog. So as part of the sprint, okay, now you can so you will have this backlog where you can do some management here, which I will touch base later on, but this is the sprint backlog. Okay, now you can see by default, now this has come to my iteration 1. Okay, iteration 2, like, so by default they have provided some certain iterations. You can create new sprint, you can rename these as well, you can create new sprints, you can set date. Now let's say go here, set date, so Monday, which is, let's say, 18th. Okay, and my end of sprint is 29th. So this is my sprint start date, this is my sprint end date. This is for my first sprint. Okay, iteration 1 is my first sprint. Second, similarly, iteration 2, you can set dates. Okay, so since my first sprint is ending on this thing, so by default it is saying that your next sprint should start from 2nd October, right? So it is saying that. So let's select that, and then you can see immediately the second drop down also got populated, which is the actually 2-week sprint. It now understands that mine is a 2-week sprint. So that is how Azure DevOps, it is very good at all these things. Automatically it does a lot of things for you. So then iteration 3, again set date. It will tell me, yes, this should be the start date, and again this is populated. Save and close. You can create a new sprint. Click on this new sprint, give your sprint a name. Okay, iteration 4 or sprint 4, something like that. Yeah, iteration 4, and by default it is selected like this, dates. So create, and now you have 4 iterations. Okay, so like this you keep on creating sprints. Okay, so now let's go back to now iteration 1. So you have these things. Now let's say you have only one developer, let's say. Okay, you know that you cannot deliver both these things, so you can move this story to iteration 2 like this. Okay, now iteration 1 has only one story, and if you go to iteration 2, you have one story here. Okay, so let's move it back to iteration 1. I was just showing you an example how to do it, but in iteration 1 now we have 2 stories here. So what you should do is now, so you have the stories. Okay, now it is a start of a new sprint. You are completely starting a project, so you don't know the velocity of the team. Now velocity is something which is calculated based on how much a team is delivering in a sprint. Okay, so let's say in your team you have 2 developers and 1 tester. So you have 3 people in your team. 3 people may deliver a certain amount of work in a sprint. Okay, in second sprint again they will deliver certain amount of work. In third sprint again they will deliver certain amount of work. This certain amount could be number of hours. Okay, but the more ideal way of calculating this is through story points. Okay, which is widely accepted across the Agile world. It's story points. So it is recommended that you go for story points, and using those points then you calculate the velocity of your team, which will be apparent after 2 or 3 sprints. Okay, and then once you know that your team's velocity is this much, like let's say 20 points, then from the subsequent sprints you take only 20 points of stories into your sprint. You don't take more or don't take less. That's 20 points of stories. Okay, now coming to story points. So this is your first sprint, right? Sprint 1, you want to assign story points. So another popular approach is you go for Fibonacci series. Okay, which is so a story will start with, let's say, 1 point, and then if there is the most simplest story. Okay, let's say the most simplest thing in your project, so assign it 1 point. Okay, so that's your 1 point story. For example, write 5 lines of text or display 5 lines of text in a screen. Very simple, right? So there is a 1 point story. Then let's say there is one more story where you want to have a text box below that where the user enters something. That's a little bit more complex, right? Compared to just displaying some text. Creating a text box and displaying the text within the text box is a bit complex. So that could be a 2-point story because it is more complex than 1-point story. So it is a 2-point story. Now let's add some more complexity. For example, the user also wants 2 text boxes, and when you click on text box 1, it should be submitted. The form should be submitted. You click on text box 2, it should be cancelled. That's even more complex, right? So it could be either a 3-point story or it could be a 5-point story. We are following Fibonacci series, right? Fibonacci series starts with, let's say now 0, 1, 2, then 3, then so 2 plus 1, 3, 3 plus 2, 5, 5 plus 3, 8, like this. Yeah. So sum up the previous 2 numbers. So so what will happen here is you can either make it based on the team's what does the teams here, always the team gives the point, right? The developers or testers who actually do the work, they will give the point. So either it will be a 3-point story or it could be a 5-point story, the example which I gave to you, right? So a text box, 2 buttons. Okay, so based on that, again, let's say it is a 5-point story because it is more complex. It is not a 3 because it is a bit more complex. It has 2 buttons, then you have to submit it also. So it's a 5-point story. Now let's add some more complexity. Let's say now when you submit this thing, what should happen is it should redirect to another screen, and then in that redirected screen, whatever you entered in the previous screen, everything should be pre-populated in some text boxes. Okay, now that becomes even more this story. Now we are now increasing the complexity of a single story. Okay, so that is how we are increasing. Just to give you an example, now this story is even more complex. Okay, so it could be, it is not a 5-point story now. Okay, the previous case was a 5-point story. Now it should be a 5 plus 3-point story. So it should be 8-point story because the additional complexity is like 3-point. The already existing complexity is 5-point. So 5 plus 3, it is an 8-point story now. So like this, you increase the complexities. It will take 1 or 2 sprints to get hold of all these things, even for the developers or testers to understand this. But start with some basic stories first, like 1 or 2-point stories, okay, in the first sprint. And then you take on the more complex stories later on. All right. Now the product manager may tell you that, okay, I need the report is my top priority. Okay, that is my number 1 priority story. But you cannot directly start the reporting story, okay, unless you work on the let's say some basic things. Okay, so usually in the first sprint, those basic things should be worked on first. Let's say create a for example, this is one of the stories, right? I want to see a forecast of my expenses, right? So this is a forecast. So this is a reporting story. Okay, so in this is, but I cannot work on these stories unless I complete some technical things. So that is why what we do is create some text stories. Those are called as text stories, okay, technical stories. So click on new item and then here enter create infrastructure. Now that is the technical stories. Without this, you cannot deliver this story. This is a very important thing, right? Create infrastructure. Now, as part of that, what you can do is click on task and say create database. Then create environments. Okay, so like this you can create multiple tech tasks. Okay, now it's better to segregate the tech stories and the business stories. So the way to do it is go to this create infrastructure and add a tag here. Okay, now you can add this text story task. Let's add technical story. Okay, technical or a debt. Yeah, these are technical debt. Without this, you cannot deliver other stories. So technical debt, save and close. So now a technical debt tag has been added here. Okay, so you can then add to your different users. Okay, all these users should already be there set up in this Azure DevOps. So you just add those developers or whoever is doing here. Okay, now once you do all these things, so there could be a testing task to test the database connectivity. connectivity or a, let's say, a environment connectivity. Okay, so one of your testers can do it, or a developer can also do it. Okay, so like this, you create some tasks for your text stories. Now once this is delivered, then you move to the other stories. Okay, so that's where it is important that you first figure out, in order to deliver this story, what else you need. So the dependencies, perhaps in sprint 1 you may not even work on this, you only work on text stories because these are big things. Yeah, in that case you just move it to iteration 2. Similarly, move this to iteration 2. Now in this example, the create infrastructure, now when you create a story like this, so what you need to do is go here, and then you can see the story points. So the story points here would be, so now depending on the complexity, again the story points, let's say it is a 13-point story. Okay, text story could be 13 point. Now initially the team will not have any idea, right, how much time it will take, this, that. So it is always better to assign more points, so that you know that it could be very complex, there are a lot of unknowns, risks. Okay, so assign more points initially. Okay, and gradually when you move forward, those points will come down. Okay, because the team will become experts, and then those points will come down. You can also split this story if you think that is a too big story, right? It should not be actually a story, because a story should be something which is delivered in a sprint, which can be delivered in a sprint. If you think that it's too big story, it will carry on for 3 or 5 sprints. So in that case, you actually and you have a small team, right? So you do not want to create just a single story and say that, okay, because let's say this task, right? So create database, perhaps this task will take what, this will be in hours. So you can say this task will take 15 hours. This task will take 12 hours. Okay, this task should take 3 hours. Okay, so another thing what you can do is, if you want to add some other parameters or values here in the card, you can also do that. Okay, so in order to do that, go to settings. You have these tabs here, so task is selected by default, so go down here, add a field, and then original estimate should be there. Yeah, so original estimate, save and close. Now the screen will refresh and original estimate will be shown here. So like this, you add different fields to the card. Okay, if you want, you also can, for example, remove this core fields. So core fields, like for example, show remaining work, show tags. Okay, so this kind of core fields also you can play around with this. So this is how you do it. So similarly for user stories, you also have this kind of things. For bugs also you have this kind of fields available. Okay, now for obviously, so when you click this drop down, there will be different fields for different cards. Okay, for user story, certain things may not be available, or for bugs, certain new things will be available. Okay, so you have to play around with it and see what you want to be displayed in the card. Okay, so now your hours has been added to this task card. Okay, so what we will do is, so we will now move to the next stage. So your tasks are added, your stories has been added to the sprint. All right, now next thing is you create some let's say now so your total story points has been added here. So this stories is not needed in this sprint, because obviously you know that you cannot deliver it. So let's move it to the next iteration. Iteration 2. So now that has been moved to the iteration 2. So I will show you a few more things. So this is how you plan a sprint. Okay, so this is how you create stories. If you want, you can again split it. As I said, you can split these stories into multiple stories, and then you can have, if you have more tasks, right? So these are the things perhaps 2 developers and 1 tester will be able to do if this is the estimate, right? Suppose the estimate is too high and you think no, it cannot be delivered, so you split it into multiple stories and deliver only the things which you can deliver in that sprint. Now when I am talking about this, the important point here is you should always keep an eye on your work details. Now this is work details which will tell you, which will show you the capacity and how much they are using. Okay, so now nothing is coming up here because we don't have a capacity assigned here. So this is the capacity which needs to be assigned, and you need to add users here. So for example, mine is one developer is dev user, then another, let's say search dev user 2. Now these users I have already added. Okay, that's why it is coming up here. You need to add these users. Okay, and then I'll show you how to add these users, but those users your organization will basically do it, but these users should already be added and should be assigned to the project. Then only they will come up here. So that perhaps a technical team member will do, but these users are already there. Now test user. Okay, so add user, and here you then go and say that, okay, this person, no days off, sorry. If someone is taking vacation, you can add those days off, okay, so that the number of effort days are reduced from the total effort. But yeah, right now let's say everyone is available. What we can do is capacity assigned. Okay, let's assign some activity. This guy is a developer, so development activity. Okay, no, this is a, sorry, this is a tester. So testing activity, this is a developer, this is a developer, and he is doing requirements. So capacity per day is 6 hours. So although the working hours is 8, but obviously a person will attend meetings and there will be other responsibilities, so 6 hours. So 6. Okay, now let's say Praveen here is a business analyst. He will be in multiple projects, so 4 hours. I'll call it multiple projects, or maybe more number of meetings compared to a developer or tester. Okay, so that's why 4 hours here. So save it, and then when you come back to your taskboard, okay, now you can see these things are coming up in the work details. Work details is this, yeah. So here you go, and you can see now this kind of trackers are coming up. So once you start working on these activities, what will happen is this will get updated. Okay, I'll show you in a minute how it will happen in real world. So you have the tasks here. So let's say let's assign this to developer 2. Okay, so you have 2 developers, one this thing, let's say create a, well, there will be no task for the actually for a business analyst here. So let's have 2 developer tasks and 1 testing task. So what will happen here is this person, once the person starts working on it, that person will change it to active. Okay, save and close. Now this task becomes active, so because this is being worked on. Now developer 2 also has started working on, let's say on day 1, Monday. So what will happen is state will also change to active. You can change it from here as well, or you can directly drag and drop. That will also change the state. So 3 ways of changing it. Yeah, so active. And now these tasks are, let's say, closed, done. These tasks are complete, but testing is pending. Yeah, so someone needs to test whether these tasks are really is there anything pending or any bugs here. So now testing becomes active, and then the testing task can be closed, but let's keep it active. So now what we need to do is, as you progress in the sprint, the hours will change. Okay, so which means when you go to the task, the developers need to update the remaining hours. Okay, let's say like this. Similarly, go to this task and update remaining is, let's say, 2, completed is 10. Sometimes remaining could be more. You may not be 12 hours exactly. So this will not add up exactly to 12 hours. So it could be, let's say, remaining is 5 and completed is still 10. Sorry, completed is 10 and remaining is still 5. Okay, so that may also happen. So let's say like this, and then testing task has not started because it is dependent on this too. So I mean, not started in the sense is not complete. That the person may be doing some test cases or something. So well, let's add perhaps 1 hour remaining, or 2 hours remaining, and 1 hour complete. Maybe some initial checks the tester has done. Happy with that. Some test cases maybe here, but not the complete testing is complete testing is not complete yet because it is dependent on these 2 tasks. So now if you go to your work details, you can see some green lines coming up here. Okay, so this is how you will see the progress of the team. You can check the progress of the team using this work details. Okay. So what we will do is then go through a few other things. What you can do here is, so there is a filter here. So filter, like you have types, you can select. If you want to see only user stories, only user story will come up. If you want to see only tasks, then you can see the tasks here. Now this will be more effective, this filter, if you go to backlog here. Okay, so like for example, backlog, you can see both user stories and this thing. So if I say only tasks are coming up here. Okay. Similarly, if you want to see only, let's say, technical, now you have only one technical debt, so it will not make sense, but only that will come up. But if there are other stories, right, so those stories will be filtered out, and only technical debt, wherever this tag is there, only that will come up. Similarly, states are there, active, new. You can see there should not be any new task, everything is active, so nothing is coming up when I'm selecting new. But active, these 3 tasks are active. Similarly, assigned to, also you can select and see. You have this area where it is, you can also, there is another thing, you can filter based on that. Parent work item, there is no such parent work item, so that's why it is not coming up here. But again, you can add a technical feature and assign the story to that feature. Okay, so right now this doesn't have any parent. Okay, there is no parent, there is only child. So you can add a parent feature, so all the future technical debt stories can be added to that feature. Okay, so that also you can do to organize it better. So that is done. So another thing which you can do is managing this board here is through the columns. You can go to this column option, and you can add, if you want some new column, you can add this column name here. Okay, and so you just click on add column. Let's say you want to add a testing column. Okay, so you can add this testing column here. So it will close, refresh, and then you can see one testing column has been added here. Okay, let's close this. So now you have 5 columns. So once a testing task, so all the testing tasks can be added to this column here. Or if you want to add any bugs or anything, and you want to test it, so that can happen under this testing column. So the next thing I want to show here is, so I have shown this backlog capacity. Now there is some user analytics which is not part of this, but yeah, once you progress, you can see the burn down charts, and you can run certain things based on this filter criteria. You can again select how sprint by sprint you can see your burn down trend. Okay, so burn down is basically in the start of the sprint you will have, let's say, 50 hours. Okay, in a team. So as you gradually go progress in the sprint, the 50 hours will reduce. So, and reduce, here it is saying 132 hours, right? Because it's the start of the sprint. In the middle of the sprint, the remaining hours could be let's say 65 hours or something. So like this, your remaining capacity will reduce as you go through the sprint. That is called as the burn down. Okay, so now see, on 25 the remaining capacity should be 88, but let's say some new task got added or complexity of some tasks increased due to some risk, then this burn down will not be exactly this kind of line. It will be like different way. Okay, ideal world, it will be not straight line in the ideal world. So that is how you use this analytics here. And you can also, you see this backlog have already spoken about capacity. You can add your days off and all these things. So all these are covered. And so that's about the sprint planning. That's how you do the sprint planning. And once everything is there, just start the sprint. If you have any questions, comments, you can put that in the comment box below. Please do subscribe to my channel and like this video.